World of Warcraft has finally added player housing, and it's actually pretty good. But, of course, the system has its flaws. When housing was first announced, I figured they would do a system similar to the Old Republic and the Elder Scrolls Online. Static houses in private instances that cost either an absurd amount of in-game currency, or a generous sum of real money. Instead, Blizzard opted for a housing system similar to Final Fantasy XIV, where players live side by side in instanced neighborhoods. There are two key differences between the two housing systems, however. In Final Fantasy XIV, houses and lots are different sizes. In World of Warcraft, the lots all have the same square footage, even if they may look differently sized. And, more importantly, unlike Final Fantasy XIV, where there are a limited number of instances, meaning only a select lucky few can own a house, which they will then need to constantly log in order to keep, Blizzard has set up a system where a new instance automatically generates when another fills up. This means that every player can own a house and, if they're patient enough, own the exact lot that they were hoping to get, which will be theirs forever, even if they skip out on an expansion. Guilds also have the option to create a private neighborhood, and, come the release of Midnight, so can unaffiliated groups of players that form charters. There are currently 2 neighborhoods, one for each faction, which are islands that can be accessed through portals.
How original.
These islands are orc and human themed, but hopefully in the future we can get some additional neighborhoods themed around different regions and expansions. The Horde Island, Razorwind Shores, features a traditional Durotar themed area along with a grassy variant, an Ajara themed forest area, sandy beaches, and a lush valley. This island has a lot of empty space, and I find it to feel rather cramped, likely due to how little space each biome is given. However, it makes up for that with several social hangout areas like a hot springs and a beachside bonfire. Though with the modern insular culture among MMO players, I don't see these areas getting much use outside of role-playing. The Alliance Island, Founder's Point, features a classic Elwyn Forest area along with an autumn variant, a cliffside area, a rocky coastline, and a Duskwood-inspired area featuring a graveyard, which has housing plots inside of it. This island makes a much wiser use of its available space, and each area is given a proper amount of breathing room. It also has a more natural-feeling flow between the different biomes, making this island feel like a more believable place. It lacks the social areas that the Horde Island has, but makes up for it through beautiful scenery. If you are an undead player and want to have a graveyard house, don't worry, you are able to own a plot in each neighborhood. And while you need a character of the appropriate faction to buy the plot in the first place, afterwards you can then travel to either property with any character on your account. But how much do these plots cost, and how do they work? Each plot costs 1,000 gold, which is practically nothing in the modern version of the game. After acquiring a plot, you will automatically receive a small house, which you can then freely move around the property and customize through the addition of extensions and windows. At the moment, there are only Orc and Human style houses, but Blood Elf and Night Elf houses will come when Midnight launches. And there is a limited number of extensions which look rather awkward on their own, but with enough creativity and a tolerance for clipping, you can still create a cool looking house, if you are a Horde player. The Alliance just has towers jutting through their roof. I hope that in the future we see more racial house styles as well as different sizes for the core structure, and, of course, a wider selection of extensions. Currently, the exterior styles are planned to only be available in their respective factional neighborhoods, but if enough people express a desire for that to change, Blizzard may begrudgingly change it sometime next expansion. Or they'll just completely ignore it, like the demand for the Mage Tower during the Legion remix. As for the interior of the house, you start off with a small room which you can then add hallways and additional rooms to. You can even use stairwells to add additional floors, but no basement option, though that may be for the best. You can fully customize these rooms by changing the style and material for the walls, floors, and ceilings. At the moment, Night Elf, Human, Orc, and Blood Elf styles are available regardless of faction, and hopefully we will see more in the future. If I were to suggest some improvements, I would like to see an option to change the appearance of entire rooms all at once rather than having to individually select each piece, as well as some color options. But the true strength of a game's housing system lies in the ability to decorate, which is where this housing system truly shines. You can choose to either freely place decorations or snap them to a grid, and you have the ability to toggle collision. After you place an item, you can then use the Advanced tool to move and rotate it along the different axes, and resize it. This can be finicky at times, but grants a great deal of creative freedom. Not only does it give you more precise control over where things go than most games where you're simply sliding things around, or the Old Republic where you have static decoration hooks that things can't move very far away from, but players have already begun to combine things into interesting displays. Some decorations can then be further customized through dye channels, which utilize special dyes created using pigments that are crafted through either inscription or alchemy. As for the selection of decor that you have to choose from, the number of decorations that are already available is staggering, though there is a severe lack of Darkspear Troll and standard Tauren decorations. It's also worth mentioning that while a large portion of the decorations are brand new, some are just models that have been lifted from their respective expansions. So a lot of the classic decorations look, yeah. When it comes to placing decorations inside, the only limiter is the extremely generous decor budget, which increases alongside the total room budget as you level up your house through a system based on renown.
Daring today, aren't we?
You are even allowed to place plants and structures inside. The exterior, however, is a different story. Not only are you restricted on what you can place outside, including lampposts for some reason, but there is a not-so-generous decor budget for the exterior. While the limit should allow for simple exterior designs without issue, more complex designs, or ones that simply use a lot of plant life, will quickly max out their decor budget. Another issue with the exterior customization is that the property border isn't clearly identified. As I was editing this video, a hotfix was released that added an exterior budget increase to Housing Level 3, and a border was added to the Midnight Beta. So, how do you level up your house? You will gain experience through a combination of collecting decorations for the first time, and by participating in the Endeavor system, which will be added when Midnight releases. Each month, NPCs will arrive in the neighborhood offering items based off of a particular theme. The theme will be chosen at random for public neighborhoods and can be specifically set by private neighborhoods. The residents of each neighborhood will then have a variety of tasks involving simply playing the game, and will allegedly scale depending on how populated that neighborhood is. Completing each task will level up the vendors, increasing the number of items that they offer, and grant you an amount of experience which will then contribute to the levels for your house, which are shared between all of your properties. But the Endeavors and neighborhood vendors aren't the only sources for decorations. Blizzard went back and added decorations to the entire game. To achievements both new and old, to reputation vendors including Tranquillin, to crafting professions which utilize a combination of old materials along with new lumber that can be harvested from every expansion, as drops from bosses and open world content, and even as quest rewards. Conceptually, this is an amazing idea. It breathes new life into a forgotten and mostly empty world, and encourages players to go back and do older content. Unfortunately, due to the current state of the game, that older content consists of little more than tediously one-shotting enemies for hours on end. While that may work for some, it certainly isn't my idea of fun. This would have been a great opportunity to add a new world tier, similar to the Heroic world tier from Legion Remix, that scales the entire world up to max level, as well as being a good opportunity to add a new legacy difficulty for dungeons and raids that would allow players to farm drops, while all the old difficulties would then scale to max level. Of course, calling the game's current scaling scuffed would be putting it lightly, and due to the insane jumps in item level and power that Blizzard has insisted on having every patch since the launch of Legion, this content would be completely trivialized even at max level. But a man can dream of a video game actually being fun to play. Blizzard opted for a system similar to the Old Republic. Decorations are consumables that are then added to an account-wide storage box, and can then be placed in any property that you own. So, for example, if I buy 2 benches on my monk, I can then place one and then switch over to the Alliance house and place another. This is a better collection system than games like Final Fantasy XIV, where each decoration takes up an inventory slot, but it still has its issues. While this system works well with crafted items and the cheaper vendor items, some of the reputation items can be a bit on the pricey side of things, and items that were added to Warlords of Draenor onward all cost the same grindy currencies that every single expansion since then has been burdened with.
I'm tired, boss.
There are also limited time decorations from events like Holidays and the Legion Remix. Holidays come every year at the same time, so those aren't an issue, but Remix events are infrequent. An update on that, as I was editing this video, a blue post was made stating that the Legion Remix items will be available from an in-game vendor regardless of if you completed the related achievements, for large sums of grindy currencies. well, it beats them being unobtainable. At first I thought the solution to this would be to adopt a system similar to Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, where once you unlock an item, you can then place as many of it as you want. But that would actually be very harmful for the game. After the initial surge of players acquiring items, the world activity would then dry up once again, leaving a dead, empty world behind. And as the demand for crafted items declined, the prices would then skyrocket to a point where many players would be unable to afford them. The better solution would be to either replace the currency cost with gold, or dramatically increase the rate at which the currencies are acquired, which would make acquiring every other item from those expansions much more enjoyable. But there is a dark shadow looming over the housing system, one that has already turned some players away before the housing was even added. Blizzard has stated that they plan on adding cash shop housing items. And yes, I was expecting this, but that doesn't make it any less scummy. And it gets even scummier. These items are going to cost a purchased currency. There are a number of videos out there breaking down why that is such an issue, but to put it simply, it encourages players to spend more. If an item costs 700 freemium currency, but you can only purchase it in values of 500, you will have to buy more. And when they add in bonus amounts, which currency-based shops always do, it will make the more expensive bundles more attractive, as they will have the appearance of being a better value. I'm afraid of the very real possibility that future housing styles are going to be paywalled rather than being obtainable within the game itself. That aside, this housing system is great. It may lack the freedom of games that let you build piece by piece, but it's still one of the best MMO housing systems around. I've played a lot of MMOs in my time, and if I were to rank all of their housing systems, World of Warcraft would place third. Second would be Star Wars Galaxies, where you could build houses out in the open world. You would climb over a mountain on Naboo and find someone's shop down in the valley below, or you'd fly over the Dune Sea and find an entire city. And in first place, Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. This game doesn't have much going for it these days, but the housing system is so robust that players are able to create entire miniature zones. Player housing is one of the best additions this game has received in a long time. But can it single-handedly save the game from the downward spiral that it has been in since the release of Warlords? Absolutely not. Not when the Midnight Prologue questline consists of Yuri Lowenthal with a horrible-looking haircut, engaging in back-and-forth glazing with the Windrunners, and then ending on Feet Lady killing some random guy because absorbing a Void Lord only filled her Void Power bar up to 99%, and it was that random dude that finally gave her the power she needed. And not when every single patch manages to break something unrelated, like how this one broke the option to hide profession gear. And it certainly doesn't excuse the War Within peaking with Undermined, and then everything that came after being so low effort that calling it minimum effort would be a stretch. Nor does it excuse so little else coming with Midnight, and no Volpera mains that are angrily typing away. Cutting a standard issue 9 boss raid into 3 separate raids doesn't count as additional content. But still, I will take my wins where I can get them. This game has been an important part of my life since I was but a child, and yes, it has been around for that long. Anyways, thanks for listening.